Things just took a shocking turn for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and for the first time in a while, Brad Treliving has come out and revealed the truth behind not only future moves, but some interesting injury updates, and one that has fans fairly concerned. We'll break that down as well as a few other updates on this episode as we continue to progress towards the beginning of the regular season. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. Obviously, hockey is upon us, and about 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support. There's a lot to go over today, and obviously, the Leafs are in a very interesting spot right now. They have another preseason game coming up soon. They had their preseason game yesterday. We saw some great things. We had a video on it. We're going to be touching on today some new comments from Brad Treliving that have been revealed, specifically surrounding a very interesting, comment that kind of came out of nowhere here. Let's dive right into that. We also have a ton of injury updates. Stay tuned to the end of the video as well for one on Joseph Woll. Brad Treliving was asked on the with Kipper and Bourne, we got to go through a camp here and see if there's chemistry with guys we have right now. That's the process. So he was asked about if they're going to be making moves, at least right now. What's the kind of the vibe there? There were some rumblings about Jack Roslovic. There were some rumblings about some other players. It seems for now, Darius, things have taken a bit of an interesting turn, and now signs point to not necessarily making a move in the next couple of weeks, but still leaving the door open and making a move before the season starts there in 3 or so in early October.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we all knew that, it was kind of going to come to this anyway, right? You acquired a bunch of new bottom six players this offseason via trade or free agency. Mitch Marner's gone at this point, which moves somebody up the lineup without a move being made, which obviously there hasn't been one yet. But I think that, we all had an idea that it was heading here, but we thought that there was going to be a move made now. And I'm not so sure that there is going to be one. If there is, it's going to be right before the season starts. They're going to see training camp through with the group that they have. And I don't blame Brad Treliving, right? He wants to see who's meshing with who has chemistry with who. We have an idea that, Nyes and Matthews work together. Michelli looks pretty good with them, but it is one preseason game. We have to see a bigger sample size. We know that Domi could also work on that line, but then does Michelli move to the second line? We haven't seen that at all yet, right? And when you look at the rest of the lineup, Nicolas Waugh, he's also been dealing with an injury. We need to see him in a game. Does he mesh well with Dakota Joshua? We don't have too many of these answers just yet. And not only that, does Nick Robertson actually fit with this team still? Is Easton Cowan going to make the team? They have to figure out these questions. And a lot of these guys, can they do it consistently together, which they need to see over the course of a couple of games, which is why so many guys are going to get into the game on Thursday and obviously Saturday against the Montreal Canadiens. So we'll see what the rosters look like there and how things look moving forward. But it should be pretty interesting as we move towards the end of the preseason in terms of who's being cut, because, we're going to have a video on this too, Nick, tomorrow morning. Easton Cowan, there's a lot of chatter either way right now. What's going to happen with that? And depending on that, does Nick Robertson even stick around? Are they going to trade for a top six forward? It's very interesting. There's a lot going on right now. Ultimately, I think they're going to go into the season with the group they have. I have to be honest. I've changed my mind, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but who's going to be playing with who and who is going to be gone? Because I do see them making a move, not necessarily to bring in a player, but to move somebody out.
Yeah, a pretty surprising turn of events here. Now, again, there is still a chance they make a move once camp is done. I mean, there is still a world as well they make a signing or a trade or something before the start of the season. It just seems at this point, which makes sense, especially with the emergence of Easton Cowan, like you've been talking about, there's a good chance here where he actually, makes the team out of camp, which makes things very, very interesting. Now, let us know how below your thoughts are on that, because we have a ton of other updates to go over here, and let's start with the lines from practice today. Nyes, Matthews, Pacelli, Lorenz, Lawton, Cowan, Robertson, Camp, Yarncroke, and then some, fringe guys on the outside, including Jacob Quillen and Alex Nylander. Nothing too crazy here, and again, the lines don't really mean a ton. However, you do have Michelli alongside Matthews, but Craig Berube did speak out and reveal some interesting things surrounding the injuries of Max Domi and Nicolas Waugh, and he said hopes that Max Domi and Nicolas Waugh, who had injuries earlier in camp but practice today, get into a game soon, and also for Simon Benoit, he's day-to-day. So everyone's going to be ready, at least hopefully, for opening day, I guess if you want to call it their home opener, their season opener. However, at the same time, it is interesting that they're rocking Michelli next to Matthews. Again, it is the logical kind of next step up here, and Craig Berube gave an ideal outlook on what a good season is for Max Domi, and he said, in my opinion, he can score more goals if he looked to shoot a bit more, and he just said something that all of us have been clamoring for the past, really last year, and even the year before it. Way too passive last year, and according to all signs here, he's going to have an actual chance to make that impact and shoot more when he plays inevitably what we think is going to be alongside Austin Matthews. However, two things here. Michelli on the top line today at practice, Easton Cowan on the second line. And Easton Cowan is playing alongside a couple of guys that if he did break camp, kind of within that group there down in the bottom six.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if Cowan is to make this team, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter if you look at some other prospects where, if he was a little bit younger and it was either the NHL or the OHL, let's say, having him on the fourth line doesn't really make sense because you're kind of stunting his development. But at this point, he can kind of go up and down between the AHL and the NHL. So I don't think it matters as much. To have him on the fourth line doesn't really make sense to
Yeah.
me still. I think you still want to give him minutes because of his skill set. Like he's not a grinder or anything like that. He's not he can put the puck in the back of the net. We've seen that in junior, right? And that's kind of the goal. So I do still think he needs a lot of minutes, but it is interesting. It seems like it's trending toward that way. But like you mentioned, with Max Domi, another interesting piece there, right? If he shoots a little bit more, I like the way that he plays with Austin Matthews. I like him on that top line. But the interesting thing now is Michelli, it's only one game, does look really good with Nyes and Matthews. He really did. So I want to see it one more time. I don't know if, Max Domi's going to factor into that line in the next preseason game. That'll be interesting to watch and how they, fare. But how does Michelli fare on the second line then? Because Michelli doesn't make sense to me on the third line, right? I think you got him to be in the top six. So it'll be interesting. One other thing that I think is interesting too, Nick, if you look at some of the line pairings, they've been splitting a lot of the guys into group one, as you can see here in group two, right? McMahon has almost been stapled the last couple days to, like he was last season for a large sample size, Nylander and Tavares. I think that's very interesting too. So where does that leave Michelli? Where does that leave Max Domi? Because if Max Domi, he is factoring back into the equation here. What if he goes back down to the third
Yeah.
line, right? So things are going to pick up here. I wouldn't even rule out, and I'm going to throw this out there, it might be a hot take, trading Max Domi. I don't think they should. I have his jersey, all of these things. I've said in a video in the past during the summer. I don't think they should, but I wonder if they explore it, right? I really do, because that would free up a lot of salary cap space and maybe you could do something significant with that. But again, I think they're looking at everything right now. The defense looks great. That's another thing too. Very excited about that and how Danford, factors into all of that. But things are picking up, and for the bottom of the lineup, we'll see what it looks like game time on Thursday. But they're experimenting with a lot of things, except for a few pairings that Craig Berube loves to work in pairs. So except for those few things, they're experimenting with a lot still.
Yeah, let us know down below your thoughts on that. The other big news here is that there's no timeline for Joseph Wall, and it's not a case where it's like, okay, I'm going to be gone for X amount of days and then I'll be back. I don't think it's clear yet how long the absence is going to be. So again, like we've been doing, best wishes to him. Hopefully he's going to be okay and everything he's going through there. So it makes extensions with Anthony Stolarz more pressing. It makes a lot of things more interesting. And as we start to ramp up for training camp here, guys who are injured are starting to, near a return. But also, unfortunately, their starting goaltender, their 1B goaltender, wherever you had Joseph Wall. But regardless, the beginning of his first, year of a 3-year deal, he's going to be out what seems like a long time, maybe into the regular season. Hopefully that's not the case. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. And one quick thing before we wrap it up, some positive vibes for New Leaf Dakota Joshua, saying that playing his first game at Scotiabank Arena yesterday in the preseason, he ran into a little trouble finding the locker room, had to ask the security guard where it was, and hopefully he'll figure that out pretty soon here. We can have a great season with him and with you guys as well. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you later.